If you remember in 2009, Tesla looked like a long shot. Only the Roadster was out and wasn't taken that seriously because it wasn't actually faster than the gas vehicles. You know, it could accelerate great in a straight line, and everyone was like, I can't believe they're going to build it with these consumer electronics batteries. And and we thought Fisker was pretty promising. Yep. So it was a different context. Oh, and Mission at that point existed as well. They had unveiled the Mission 1, the first one, the Eve Bahar design bike, but they hadn't gotten to the R yet. And so that was my context. And when she told me they were working on this electric motorcycle, I was like, nah, sounds like a terrible idea, but sure, I'll meet with them. And my reasons for it sounding like a terrible idea was I rode and loved gas bikes. And from a product point of view, if it wasn't going to be better at being a bike than what gasoline could do, then it was a science experiment. It was interesting for the technology, but not necessarily interesting as a product. And I felt like the Zero was a little different in that it was trying to create a new category. The Mission I do think fell into that category. It was, you know, it was trying to put itself up against super bikes, and it just wasn't there. And it needed to be better at least one thing that was important, or you know, you didn't have a business. And so I met up with Derek Dorstein, Jeff Sand, who ended up being my co-founders, and that was the first thing I told them through the door, or like straight through the doors, was I went to Derek's machine shop, and it was clear that these were two guys that could design and build anything that they wanted to. And so that's what I said. I was like, if you want to build one as a hobby, you know, go for it. But unless this is going to be better than the gas bikes, it's not a business. And they said, oh no, we agree. And we think we've got that. And I said, that's not possible. Let's take a look. And they showed on screen, they, you know, fully catted up a concept at that stage. And they said, no, the numbers work out. We think it'll run with the 250s. And I said that can't be. And we walked through, you know, battery for battery, energy for energy. All right, how much power is a 250 putting down? And like, what's the drive cycle look like? And what's a lap under a pro? And how much energy is that going to be? Well, so in off-road, your traction, and that means you're power limited. It doesn't matter if you somehow fit 200 horsepower onto a dirt bike, you're not using it, you know. And in fact, outside of, again, desert racing and sand, there aren't that many people on the planet that can even put down the 55, 60 horsepower of a 450 outside of a few narrow moments on certain tracks. And so once you start looking at how much power, you know, a dirt bike is really putting down on, even under a pro rider and even on a pretty big track, it turns out it's pretty low. The racing format for motocross is relatively short, especially you know, at vet or amateur levels, but even the pro race, 35 minutes. And so the amount of energy you need is basically your average power times the time that you're using it. Well, motocross was a format with low average power and a really short duration. And so all of a sudden, instead of being kind of 5x away from where you needed to be in terms of the amount of energy you could fit on a vehicle, you were closer to like 1.5x. And maybe that's a gap you can close. And especially if your target isn't the pro ride and 35 minutes, but the vet ride at 20, now the numbers work. And that's, you know, the majority of riders, and that's definitely the riders that are paying their own money for their bikes. If you can take that rider and you can make them faster, right, in a performance driven category, in a category that's all about either winning the race or being faster than your buddies, that's something that people will really pay for. So that clicked. And then also that algorithm of, our limitation is battery, and how we find categories that aren't limited is this combination of average power and time. You can start to look at the world of transportation and say, well, motocross is sort of all the way to the right on the Pareto chart, not to be too nerdy. And it's performance driven. It has a lot of brand value, and it's probably the most skeptical customer I could ever imagine. And so if we can win over that customer, I think we can win over anybody.
So you said online a couple of times, it wasn't about a green movement at all. Well, I mean, it's about 90% performance and, oh yeah, bonus points for being green. But most motocross riders don't care that much, or didn't at the time, about being green. Just give me performance. Turn me into,
Yeah.
You had this saying, you want to make heroes of your customers, and the heroes is put them on a better performing bike so they win, then they're a hero.
Yeah, I would say that was absolutely the case from a business standpoint. It needed to be that. We sort of couldn't blind ourselves with promises of it being cleaner and greener. We needed to be hard-nosed about, if this was going to be a business, it had to be a better motorcycle, regardless of whether you're filling it with electrons.
Wasn't Tesla the opposite of that? Wasn't Tesla green, but oh, by the way, you can go 0 to 60 in 4 seconds?
It was, and well, and maybe that's the way we should have gone, because
I don't know. You built a hell of a company.
Yeah.
It was successful.
Yep. But I think our audience was a little bit different. I think you would find a pretty big swath of luxury car owners that responded to that message, that wanted most of the performance and none of the guilt, and wanted to be able to signal maybe that they were responsible even while they were doing irresponsible things. And I definitely have some of that built into me. I don't think there would have been that many of those customers in our sector. But I would be lying if I didn't say that the fact that it was electric and that it had the promise of being cleaner wasn't a major part of all of our motivation in starting the company. So, it's not the sales pitch. It's not what we thought was going to move bikes, but it was our reason, the three of us, for being there. And I think that was true for most, if not all, of the team members that came and joined the company. I mean, it was really kind of a impossible combination of everything I could hope for in a job, right? If you're going to make work your life, which we did for a decade, it was a product that we all would have been geeking out about and spending our time staring at and reading about online instead of doing our job if we weren't there, right? It was like the sort of thing that we just loved and wanted to pour our time into. It was something that had the potential to leave the world a better place than we found it. And it was with two of the most brilliant humans I'd ever met, eventually 100 of the most brilliant humans I'd ever met, but it was really a special team. And so, when those things come together, something that is super fun and meaningful, and potentially a big business opportunity, and a team that you really gel with. And I'll say, so I met Jeff and Derek summer 2009. We spent 6 months of nights and weekends kind of working together, but also getting to know each other and making sure this was a thing that we wanted to do. And even then, we started the company, I think, officially in January, but we all hung on to our day jobs for like another 6 months after that. So there was really a year, because we knew it was a big, risky, crazy venture, and you want to make sure you're getting into it with the right folks. And I can say I was, even a decade later, with all of the trials and tribulations, and even knowing the outcome, still super close with both of them, and we would work together again for sure.
Yeah, that's really awesome.